Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We are back again with another 30 days of thought. Yes, the cover's fallen off from reading and writing and listening and speaking so much. Before I introduce our excerpt on page 135, here is a quote for our podcast. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. Today, we're talking about, and that was Friedrich Nietzsche that said that. Today we're talking about being different. Excerpt on page 135. What if the very thing that sets you apart is the thing that you've been taught to suppress, to repress, to hold back, to step away from, and in turn to hold yourself in contempt? What if being different was a part of the natural process of moving toward your potential, of moving away from what you did before, how you were perceived before, what role you played based on at that time, the knowledge that you had and the work that you were doing and had opportunity to do, and the people that you were associated with and that you shared values with and customs and rituals and the same operating system, the same story, and that the actual pursuit of your higher potential to take on more responsibility, to enter another paradigm of opportunity, certain aspects of who you have been, who you are up to this point will have to be cast away or cut off or separated from. And it's actually the aspect of being different, the aspect, the natural process of being different, being seen as different, being perceived as different from the community, the culture, the crowd, the tribe that at what, in the past was maybe that new womb, that new community, that new group think earned from prior to that being different in another group and elevating and graduating up the never-ending ladder towards your higher self, your more capable, competent, confident version of yourself. Life being a never-ending journey, walk, crawl, inch by inch, tooth and nails up your version of your Mount Everest. What does being different have to do with that? The difference between, I'll read this from the excerpt, actually. The difference between a smile and a frown are as contrasting as Pluto and its sun, the warmth of acceptance and the frozen chill of ambivalence. I'm accepted in my current group. I'm accepted with my current title. I'm accepted with my current level of actual education and perceived competence in this role, in this place, in this career, in this trade, in this class, in insert whatever context. There's acceptance in falling in line. There's acceptance in knowing that if I show up tomorrow and do the same thing, do just enough, maybe even exceed, but don't ask for more, just do more, I will be accepted. I am an expectation on the P&L. I am an expectation on the balance sheet. I am an expectation of consistency or order in someone else's worldview. There's nothing to be concerned about, anxious about. I'm not creating chaos or disorder. There's acceptance in just showing up, in getting it done. However, there would be an inner uh, And ambivalence, on the other hand, right? We have a contrast here of acceptance, maintaining order. I'm accepted by my tribe. I may not accept myself because I know I could be more. I know I could do more. I know I could carry a heavier load, but I don't accept myself. So I don't accept myself, but I'm accepted by the group. I'm accepted as a statistical likelihood, a non-anomaly. Others believe they know what they're getting because I'm not creating any interruption. I'm not questioning authority. I'm not rocking the boat. I'm not creating any type of disruption that could lead to them to look at themselves and ask themselves and break that self-deception of, could I be more? Who am I? What am I doing? There's an inherent questioning that happens in my counterpart when I say yay and not nay to my potential, yay to my higher self. I go from being accepted by the crowd, my group, and whilst not accepting myself because I know I can be more, to accepting my higher potential and creating ambivalence or the state of having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about someone or something. That's the definition. The state of creating contradictory ideas. Now it's a state of ambivalence as it relates to the other to me because I'm stepping into my higher self. I'm creating anomaly. I'm leading. I'm in seeding chaos by voicing a new idea, by adding another layer of content, which alters the context between me and others that have formed my social group up to this time. And so we're constantly in this conflicting contrast between potentially not accepting ourselves and being accepted by the group versus accepting ourselves in the journey we are moving forward and being being held in contempt by the group, being held in disdain, or as a consequence of us striving forward and creating that pattern interrupt in ourselves that we have pride around, that can easily lead to the crowd, our group, the group think, our peer group to look and say, no, don't do that. Stop doing that. You can't do that. As a consequence of the interruption, the pattern interruption, the psychological distortion, and in turn, individual misalignment of themselves to themselves as they relate to us, altering how we relate to ourselves. We could be more, we could do more, we could want more and strive for more. That creates or inseeds that pattern interrupt to the innate self-deception necessary for our peers to maintain order and stay at whatever level, whatever paradigm they're operating in. So what I'm saying, and there's no, it isn't, I'm not making an argument against others or oh, they're malevolent. So the crowd's malevolence or ill contempt, conscious contempt for us. No, it's deeper than that. It's like there's going to naturally be a stir, a, a conflict in the contrast of accepting our fate, our destiny by striving above, by moving up, by demonstrating more power, more alignment between who we are today and who we believe we can be and who we feel we must be. That urge, that impulse to move into our higher self that will so being different is a natural consequence of the movement forward if we choose that if we're called to it or pulled to it and we choose it by deciding to speak and act differently, to think and act and speak differently in unison, being different. So the difference between a smile and a frown are as contrasting as Pluto and its sun. The warmth of acceptance and the frozen chill of ambivalence. Remember, you know, example, she felt ambivalent about leaving her job, excitement for the new role, but sadness about what she was leaving behind. He spoke with ambivalence, torn between loyalty and truth. So ambivalence literally means both strengths or being pulled in two directions, emotionally or mentally. The relationship, a relationship of, let's say, you and your counterpart, you striving upward, they are not yet ready to do so. You are now changing your state, your being, which forces their state and being to change outside of their choice. So they're going to react to your action. How you're relating to yourself is altering your state of being. And if you have a relationship with that counterpart, their identity is formed, is partially formed by from you and how you show up in the world because you're relating to one another. Part of their identity is tied to your identity, and your identity is changing relative to your pursuit of your potential, your new goal, your new learning, your new striving. Your habits and rituals are changing, and that is going to alter their habits and rituals. So it creates a pull, right? We're being pulled in two directions. It's not just copacetic, there's not homeostasis. The expectation, there's a certain expectation in friendship, and it's based on the past actions and interactions and rituals and stories and values that were reflected in the relating in the relationship. And now one party of the two is altering they're altering their actions, their habits, their rituals. They're operating from a new story, a different story, and that's going to lead to an ambivalence. This contrast, this conflict, this, and in turn, being different is a part of striving. It being equipped to burden that is a part of being different. When we are left out far from our colleagues, the crowd never feels like quite enough. At times of acceptance, a shield of love protects us and guards our heart from our greatest enemy, ourselves. To be different is a blessing in the right of truth, but a curse in the solidarity of having to be just that, different. When you walk amongst the yes men and exist with the herd, a subtle yet stinging, lonesome feeling creeps up your spine. Lonely in the sense that your potential weighs on you. You know you could be more. You know you could do more. You know you could step into more. And the womb of love or the shield of protection of being one with the community has an anesthetic or a numbing to it, and there's a passivity, a pacifying to it, and there's a fleeting happiness or a false meaning to it. But the meaning in the truest sense is a striving or a suffering or an overcoming and a working through. It's not finite. It's more spherical, not spherical, but spiralic. It's like a spiral. And the yes man effect, friendship, peer, peer to peer camaraderie has a fleetingness to it, has a has a momentary. There's this momentariness, temporality. There's an arbitrariness about it. It's fleeting. It's not substantive. It's more. I don't have the word, but it breaks under its own weight. It inverts. It crumbles under its own weight. The yes, but it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose for a period of time, but it will serve a purpose until you know, this is where the conscience comes in, as well as fate. Each person has their own fate, their own potential that's pushing through the earth to attempt to get to the light. That's pushing from the dark to the light. That's pushing from underneath the surface. It's pushing out of the ground. The roots are pushing that stem, that trunk out of the ground so that the flower can blossom, so that it could rise higher and higher and higher towards the sun, which is pulling itself to itself. That's your potential. Each person has their own potential in respect to the suffering that they've experienced in proportion to the how that's conceptualized in their identity, in their vision, in how they represent that suffering in potential. So if you're listening, this is like, and you're thinking, I could be more, I could do more, I want more. What is in your way? Well, you are, and very real forces are in your way. True social, emotional, psychical forces are in your way of yourself, of your potential. They're in your way. When you walk amongst the yes men and exist with the herd, a subtle yet stinging, lonesome feeling creeps up your spine, the feeling of awkward imprisonment within a cage of insignificance rushes around your mind like an aura of judgment, forsaking your every thought. Fear of nonconformity plays at every game your mind takes part in, and being different is a plague spread through your essence. Right? This is a crippling phenomenon. It's an anxiety creating manifestation of being, essentially. At every there will constantly be a something in the way of your potential coming into being. Um, Please just know upon digestion, upon your journey, when you arrive at this point, you are not alone. All of us, so one of the interesting com components of this is everyone, all people may share, all people may share. It seems actually contradictory. It's either all people do or they don't. That's the question. Does everyone share in some degree of potential that's in turn um, 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 has a possibility to let I mean, it could be that the very people that show contempt or disdain or animosity that that are potentially projecting their lack of potential manifesting or actualizing on you. If you're moving into your potential and you're moving into your higher self and you're moving into a future version of you, the the pain and suffering that you go through aiming striving for who you are may be exactly what your naysayers, your enemies, your critics need to experience to eventually, even subtly, sh- take the risk themselves. Like, we do so much for our enemies and they do so much for us. We're as connected to our enemies as we are our friends. We may even be more connected. We're more connected to our enemies than our friends. Our enemies have even more skin in the game to our goals and our aspirations than our friends. What if our enemies are closer to conversion? They're closer to stepping into their potential than our friends. Our friends are numb. Our friends are anesthetized. Our friends are just mirrors of whatever consciousness we're representing in our actions and our words and our story. And they're voyeurs in our journey. They're getting the high of the self through our self, manifestation. They're not even, they don't, their identity is tied to our identity, but our enemies are splitting off. They're like amoebas splitting off. They're actually closer representations of the genesis of our being than our friends. They're new versions of other components of us. And there's a value in understanding and respecting that, and even loving our enemies, having an openness to their value to us and the redemptive qualities of them stepping into their yes, their yay, their acceptance of being different, and their stepping into their higher potential. I am here staring back at you. I know your fear and I know your pain, and you do not have to be afraid anymore. This self-infliction and pain must be put to rest. Believe you are different. Understand you are different, because being different will set you apart from everything that is mundane, and I will be your friend. I am your highest nature. I am your higher nature. I am your better self. I am on the other side of decision. My name is Smile, and I am here to light up the universe with your story. Onlookers and passerbys alike will be inspired by me, by you, and by us. Our aura will brighten up our world. Be different for you, me, and everyone longing in the darkness. The smile represents openness, the courage to accept ambivalence of the crowd and accept one's fate and suffering and striving towards the goal of sacrificing and owning one's fate and struggle will bring one out of the darkness and inspire other roots. We're all roots under in the ground. All of us are roots in the ground, striving to pluck our heads out of the soil and see the light so we can get closer to the sun. And the more we each of us smile towards our potential, the more our example will lift up our enemies who are closer to their potential than our friends, because the more we strive into our potential, we turn our friends into enemies and our enemies into friends. Hmm. Smile, stay gracious, keep rising. Being different isn't a punishment, it's proof that you're alive. Smile because you're becoming, not better than others, but more of yourself. You can't get in a materialistic, ultimately resource creating sense, you can be better than what others manifest or presuppose, like the outcomes. But in the spirit of each individual's capacity to be better than, no one can be better than another's potential, because each individual has their own unique story, like their own unique DNA of how deep their tree can go to hell and rise to heaven. Be different for you, for me, and everyone long in the darkness. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Please share this with someone.